Hi, my name is Rhian and I have lived on the Isle of Man for 19 years with my husband Rousseau. We have three wonderful children, Noah, Esther and Rachel. And I really just wanted to take a moment to share with you my story of how I came to know Jesus. I grew up in a non-Christian home, and the closest I got to going to church or knowing God was the Church of England school that I went to. And sadly, it didn't really bear much of an impact on my life with regards to faith or Christianity. What did have an impact though was when my nan died of cancer. And I remember at the funeral, my great aunt turning to me and saying how she could no longer believe in a God who would let her sister suffer in this way. It was at that moment, through my own hurt and pain, that I decided I couldn't believe in God either. As I grew up, my unbelief turned into hate. I blamed God for everything that went wrong in my life. I hated God so much that I would aggressively oppose anyone who dared to speak to me about the gospel or the good news of Jesus. Now, I wasn't an atheist. I did believe in a spiritual realm, but with my anger towards God, this only served to draw me further away from him into witchcraft and the things of the occult. But that's another story. So what changed? Well, I met Rousseau and I fell in love. But what you may not know is that although Rousseau grew up in a Christian home and would say he was a Christian, he wasn't living a life that reflected that. So we were both living our lives for ourselves, selfishly. We were partying, drinking, and doing everything that surrounds that lifestyle. But to cut a long story short, I ended up moving to South Africa with Rousseau. I love travel and adventure, so I was super excited. But the only drawback was that one of the conditions of living with Rousseau's family was that I had to attend church. I tried everything to get out of it. I even offered to clean the house whilst everybody else went to church. But this was non-negotiable, so I went. But the funny thing was that it was an Afrikaans speaking church, so I couldn't understand anything anyway. But that was where I greatly underestimated the power of the Holy Spirit. My turning point came when we were invited to go and see Bruce Marciano, who is an actor who played the role of Jesus in a movie. He shattered all my preconceived ideas of Christianity. He shone Jesus. He was filled with life. Something was different, and I was listening. At the end of the evening, he called for a response like any good preacher would. But I was way too shy to stick up my hand and say yes. But I had been significantly challenged that night. So about 3 days later, I gave my life to the Lord. That decision has changed my life. I am no longer angry or living for myself. I have a greater calling. There is a more exciting adventure to be had, far greater than I could ever have hoped, dreamed, or imagined. Now, I'm not perfect, and I'm still learning. But Jesus has changed the hate that consumed me into a love that overwhelms me. I live for him. What a gracious God we serve, that he can take someone so against him and transform them into somebody so completely for him. Romans 5 verse 8 says, "But God showed his great love for us by sending Christ to die for us whilst we were still sinners." I am so thankful that I can experience that love every day. And the good news is, you can too.